Welcome in, Tiger fans, to another episode of Bayou Bengal Bites. And we're fortunate enough to keep this rolling as the baseball season keeps going on. Tyler, what a game last night.
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the best college baseball games in the history of the College World Series. And yeah, the blood pressure went up last night, but the Tigers and Tommy Tanks came through.
I mean, on an unrelated note, I do have a doctor's appointment. I've been experiencing heart palpitations that I need to go to after this recording. No. Everything's fine. But I mean, golly, that game locked in 11 innings. Of course, Tommy Tanks hits the walk-off home run to seal the deal. Actually, fun fact, first ever walk-off home run in extra innings to of a tied game. It's a long statistics in men's College World Series history. So Tigers got it done. We're going to tell you how they got there. So, of course, the week in Omaha started with a victory over the Tennessee Volunteers on Saturday, and then the Tigers were not as fortunate on Monday, where they lost to Wake Forest. That was a tough one. I believe the final score of that one was 2-1 or 3-2, close
32, yeah.
game. Yeah, 3-2, close game. We had a chance to tie the game late with Trey Morgan running home, and great play by Wake Forest's third baseman. A good tag by Mr. Bennett Lee. I think all Tiger fans know who Bennett Lee is now. The broadcast didn't shut up about him the entire week. But great tag by him behind the plate to get Trey on that first Monday game. And then we had to got to get it out the mud out of the losers bracket. Play Tennessee again, which I was very worried about. Tennessee's a hard team to beat. Let's see, 4 out of 5 times this year. Of course, you didn't have Paul Skeens, but Nate Ackenhausen stepped up and got it done. I mean, did his thing. In the press conference, Jay Johnson texted him at like 7 a.m. Hey Nate, you're getting a start. He texted back at about 11. Said, "Sounds good, coach." So credit to Jay for not double texting there to his starting pitcher. But Tyler, what you see on that first game against Tennessee or second game? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that second game, like you, I was definitely worried. I thought that if LSU was going to make it to the College World Series Finals, that they had to win that 1-0 game. And like you mentioned, that Trey Morgan play was definitely the difference maker. Both of the pitching staffs for both Wake Forest and LSU were elite in the College World Series. But yeah, that Tennessee game, the offense got out early. They scored one run in the first. And I think that was definitely needed, especially against a guy like Drew Beam, who's going to be another MLB pitcher. I mean, LSU, they faced off against like so many MLB pitchers on their way to the College World Series Finals. So I definitely think, obviously, with the Dylan Cruz home run to put you up 5, that was definitely going to be enough runs to you. And this bullpen did some work in the past couple of days.
Oh,
A
definitely.
shutout against Tennessee. Tennessee is one of the best offenses in the country in the SEC. So you got to tip your cap to the pitching staff. They definitely handled their business in the second round against Tennessee and also in the first round against Tennessee. But that was Paul Skeens, and we know what he can do.
Exactly. I mean, and it kind of put the nail in the coffin to Tennessee fans going, "Oh, well, you can't beat us without Paul Skeens." Well, we did, and you're sitting at home, and we're playing for a national championship. So let's get to the next two games. So after the Tigers took down Tennessee in that game 3, first game out of the losers bracket, they had to beat Wake Forest twice, which was no easy task. First game, well, that was what, Wednesday night. They came in. Javen Coleman got the start. First inning, it was a little shaky, but he got out of it. Second inning, he did not get out of, and the Tigers went to Blake Money, kind of in a setup situation, and he let up a few hits, but he got a few outs. And then, of course, they called on the freshman left-hander Griffin Herring, who just delivered. I mean, longest outing of the year. I believe he had 6 innings pitched, a handful of strikeouts, only a few hits. And then after Griffin Herring, who else to go to besides Gavin Guidry? I mean, came in and just shut the door on Wake Forest. So offense also erupted. I believe that was a 6-2 game. Was that the final score? I can't remember after
Yeah.
last night. I mean, it
Yeah.
was just so Tigers played good pitching staff is really what has kept you in these games. And of course, let's get to the game that's on everybody's mind from last night, the 0-0 with Louder versus Skeens on the mound. I mean, take away the jerseys, put the Red Sox versus the Yankees, you wouldn't know a difference. I mean, this game was probably the best College World Series game, probably the best game of the entire season. I mean, this was, in my opinion, the national championship. Now I know we still have to play Florida this weekend, but the game we saw last night, I mean, speechless. Tyler, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I first want to go on to that first game. You got to give credit to Kate Beloso. He came up with a three-run bomb. Like you mentioned, the Tigers faced a little bit of adversity in the middle innings. Javen Coleman just didn't have his best stuff. Wake Forest was able to get back-to-back singles and go up 2-0. But in the next inning, they were able to bounce back, and this is what this offense can be. Braden Joe Bear had that double, and then Joe Bear was able to score, and then they got some more base runners on, and then we saw the Creole Bambino as our Kay
Yeah.
Bloster came up position, the pitching staff, Gavin Guidry, Riley Cooper has definitely been an asset for this bullpen throughout these past couple of days. And then, like you mentioned last night, Skeens, Ladder, you just knew that you were going to get a battle. And you got to give credit to Wake Forest. They're able to get a lot of foul balls. LSU's offense struggled mightily. Rhett Lauder was on like 30 pitches through 4 innings. Wasn't able to work the count, but I was definitely surprised that Wake Forest pulled him so early. It was in after the
I was
seventh inning
shocked.
that they went
I mean,
into their bullpen. If you know, like LSU fans like to say, the crackhead himself wants to come in. The
yeah.
pitcher he had a good outing too, and then they went to the closer, which we all know his quote: "We can't be beaten. Nobody can beat us." So we see TikTok that we put it out. Kudos
Yes,
to
the
Chet for putting
scrambled.
that out on the spot. It definitely blew up.
Right after the game,
We
I was
got a little
scrambling to put
taste
that
of
together. You can
karma
see that
there,
over on our TikTok and YouTube channel.
but yeah, it was just like offenses just couldn't get it going. The wind was
Yep.
blowing in pretty much every LSU game except for the first one. That was pretty much the only game where we saw Gavin Dugas get one out, Braden Joe Bear to seal the deal in game number one. And then we saw Beloso get that 3-run bomb. Not really seen a lot of the home run hitting power until we saw it last night. The wind died a little bit down. So I don't know. I just was all the emotions, stress last night. I went
Yeah, you
from,
talk
are
about
we going to win
stress.
this game? Because whenever it was in like the bottom of the eighth, I don't remember this so many times. This LSU team attempted to bunt and then they failed to, especially that I think it was game against Wake Forest.
Oh,
That
that was
bunted,
pitiful.
yeah, bunted Trey Morgan for some reason, one of the hottest hitters in the country. And then Jordan Thompson had a couple of blunders at the plate too. So it was definitely some missed opportunities, but you just knew that I got to also tip my cap to Thatcher Hurd. Everybody wants to talk about Skeens last time, but Thatcher Hurd coming out bullpen, throwing 3 straight 0s to give your. And I just knew that we were going to win it after that seal the deal. Wake Forest had some base runners on with one out, runners at the corners. And then Thatcher Hurd sealed the deal. But the play that I really want to get to is that Trey Morgan play
Oh,
in
best
the top of
play
the
I've
eighth.
ever seen.
Everybody wants to
Defense
talk about the
amazing.
walk-off home run, but honestly, if Trey Morgan doesn't make that play, Wake Forest probably wins the game 1-0 right there. So
I
those
agree with you.
play Alex Milazzo putting on the tag. That's definitely a hard play to do. But like they mentioned, they practice it every single day, and it definitely counted out. But like I mentioned, I just knew that this team was going to pull through in the bottom of the 11th, especially at the top of the order. Dylan Cruz gets on. He almost could have had a double, but he didn't want to really risk it, so he got the single. And they come on and put the closer in the first pitch. Tommy White gets a slider. He cranks it 300.
400 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
almost
absolutely
400 feet. Crowd goes
annihilated that
wild.
ball.
LSU books their trip to the championship, and yes, what a game!
Yeah, I wanna get back to the point you mentioned on that bunt play by Trey Morgan. If he doesn't make that play, there is no bottom of the 11th because Wake Forest wins that game 1-0.
Yeah,
I believe that was the top of the ninth or top of the eighth. I think Paul Skeens was still
yeah,
pitching. And then, I mean, also credit to Thatcher Hurd, who's been, he was a starter at the beginning of the year, turned into a bullpen guy. Then they started using him in the postseason to start. I mean, it's hard to go as a pitcher to go from bullpen to starting to bullpen to starting. I mean, that's a lot. Some guys they like to start a game and get settled in, but Hurd has just been able to been thrust in to any sort of situation and get it done. So, I mean, he pitched what 3 innings. So, of course, looking ahead, and we'll get to it in a couple segments, but he's definitely available for the weekend. Paul Skeens, maybe not, but Thatcher Hurd, I mean, he did what he had to do, and then of course bottom of the 11th, Dylan Cruz, Tommy White, Trey Morgan. I was like, oh, if Dylan doesn't do it, one of Tommy White or Trey is definitely going to do it. And Tommy White comes up 98 RBIs. And I texted you, I said, this would be perfect to make 100. Next pitch, boom, see ya. I'm jumping up and down, screaming, jumping off the couch. I was actually listening to the broadcast of the game from Chris Blair and Doug Thompson rather than listening to the TV announcers because the announcers during the College World Series have been atrocious, in my opinion. I'd rather listen to LSU's local broadcast, and of course, right as he swung the bat, Wade, our other co-host from Sports Scramble, FaceTimes me. So the audio cuts out through the Bluetooth speaker, but I'm seeing it happen on the TV, and he's going nuts. I'm going nuts. I mean, the whole house is erupting. It was really just a perfect way to end that game. But I mean, biggest thing in my eyes was that defensive play from Trey Morgan. It's going to get overshadowed due to the home run and the walk off and how the game ended. And Trey Morgan just as a player, I mean, we're very fortunate to have him because you got guys like Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz, Tommy White. You don't even think about Trey Morgan, but he played a lot of left field. Had a hand injury, is what kind of was revealed during the postseason as to why he wasn't playing first base. But him being at first base, it's hard to argue that he's not the best first baseman in the country, and I think he could honestly help any big league team playing first base as well. So
Yeah, I
that was
definitely agree. I mean, his flexibility is just through the roof, and he's got
I
to
don't know
be
how
like
he
one
does
of
it.
the best defensive first basemen that I've even played college baseball.
I don't know how he does his splits almost every game. I mean, the guy's got bones or rubber for bones. It's like Riley Cooper's got a rubber arm, which let's get to this pitching staff that has just showed up for the Tigers. You can see the big man on the video intro right there. I mean, Riley Cooper, I believe he's pitched in every game except for one, or maybe two. I don't think he pitched in that first game. He just comes in. Jay Johnson. I think it's a tie between who he trusts more between Riley Cooper and Paul Skeens while he's on the mound. I mean, Cooper's been with Jay since he was at Arizona, and he's done great. But you got other guys like Griffin Herring and Nate Ackenhausen, Gavin Guidry. I mean, guys have stepped up in big moments, and that was the question mark around LSU was their bullpen and their pitching staff. Behind Paul Skeens and possibly Ty Floyd, you didn't know what was going to happen, and they have put all of those bad thoughts, just any ideas of things going wrong, they put it to bed. And in games where the offense, I mean, I'll be honest with you, we're, uh, Wake Forest was one of the best pitching staffs in the country. Offense didn't really show up. And without the way our guys were pitching, we would have had no shot to win that game. So I mean, the pitching staff? We were on the show a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, discrediting them, saying they really got to figure it out. Look at them now, Tyler. They must have heard us.
Yeah, I definitely think, like you mentioned a month ago, April, after there was a huge concern about this bullpen figured out, especially in the postseason play if they wanted to make it here in Omaha. Well, they figure it out. Everybody at the ballpark and the wind blow. I don't even think plays into this. I just think that this pitching staff, it wasn't really the issue of talent wise. It was just who needs to be lined up where. And I think that Jay Johnson
Right.
and this staff has finally figured out. Paul Skeens, we know what he's going to do every time that he steps on the shove. And then Ty Floyd, he had a good outing as well. I know that of this College World Series so far, but Ty one of his outings
I mean, he hit
probably since
10
that Ole
strike
Miss
10
game.
or 11 strikeouts. I mean, he
Yeah,
had a
he
great
was
outing.
absolutely dealing, and then all of a sudden, the umpire squeezes him, and then he gets out of
The
control there.
yeah.
But that's something that we could talk about on a later date. But yeah, Ty Floyd, that was one of his best outings probably since that Ole Miss game where he 8 innings, and then you give it to Nate Ackenhausen. I literally texted you guys. We needed. This was pretty much the same scenario of the 2017 season. And I was saying, like, we need somebody to step up like Caleb Gilbert did. If you remember,
Yep.
Caleb Gilbert absolutely shoved, and the offense, put up 6 runs behind Michael Papirski and his 2 home runs. So we got that with Nate Ackenhausen. The longest outing was 3 innings pitch all season. And it gives you 6 innings pitch. And that's what's definitely what you needed. And that ultimately saved the bullpen and saved some arms for you to be able to do the impossible, like many thought, of beating Wake Forest twice. And that's exactly what they did. Nate Ackenhausen and Riley Cooper got the job against Tennessee. You only have to, burn. Really, the bullpen was definitely got some fresh arms in it. Game 1 against Forest, Javen Coleman got the start, like you mentioned. Blake Money only pitched 6 innings pitched. I know he gave up the base hit, but he still had. That's what you want at the ballpark. Blake Money,
Right.
if the wind's blowing in, he's definitely suitable ballpark. He throws a lot of strikes, pounds the zone. That's exactly what you need in that situation. And then we saw Griffin Herring, the freshman, 4 innings pitch of no earned run baseball, and that was huge, especially putting up a zero after Capeloso in the offense got the balls rolling there. So I definitely Captain Griffin and Gavin Guidry. We just talked about this kid. I mean, just the that he has, the dog that he has in him. Gavin Guidry is definitely going to be the closer. Whenever we're looking at the next year's team and the team after. So yeah, this pitching staff against the Wake Forest team, they're called Wake Forest for a reason, but they shut this thing down.
Yes, they
They
did.
only score like 3 runs total. They put up 3 in the first game, 2, and then the shutout last night, and then Tennessee. This has just been a pitching, master class by this LSU bullpen. So got to keep it rolling. Florida is definitely a hot offensive team as well, but you got to be, impressed with what you saw, especially the way that bullpen was like a month ago. They were lost, and now that they have definitely found their swagger.
No, I definitely agree with you. I heard a stat last night. I think in the postseason, or it might be the full postseason, or just the College World Series. LSU's bullpen has a sub 2.5 ERA. It was around like a 9 or a 10 during the regular
Yeah.
season. So I mean, that is a drastic improvement since what we previously saw. So I mean, it's you call on guys in big spots and they've been delivering, and they're going to have to deliver against Florida because you pretty much can guarantee you're going to see Ty Floyd in the first game on Saturday. But then after that, it's like, who do you go to? If Thatcher Hurd doesn't throw Saturday, I think you see Thatcher Hurd Sunday. But if he does end up throwing Saturday and he has to get out of a jam and throws a lot of pitches, I mean, you call on a guy like Nate Ackenhausen, Griffin Herring, somebody to get in there and just throw strikes and get you out. So let's get to that matchup against Florida. So a repeat of 2017 national championship, LSU taking on Florida. Unfortunately, the Tigers lost that one 2-1 6 years ago. Those were the days of Kramer Robertson. We had Jared. I think Jared Poche was one of the pitchers back then in 2017. Yeah, so we had great pitching, great defensive players. It's really almost a repeat of what we've got now. So it's gonna be a battle. I mean, Florida definitely had an easier side of the bracket. They got guys like Jack Caglione who can just rake over at first base, and he also pitches. So it's you never know what you're gonna see. They got good aces. They have one of the best pitching staffs, but the way I look at it is they've been rested for 3 days, 2 days, hadn't played a game, and LSU's just been game after game after game. LSU's got the momentum heading into that. I mean, people may argue it the other way, but I like where the Tigers are at. I know you don't have Paul Skeens, but hey, weather's supposed to be bad Saturday night. Maybe this game gets pushed to Sunday. And, obviously he wouldn't be ready to go Sunday, but he could potentially pitch a Monday game too if needed. Definitely, I think he definitely pitches game 3 if we get to that, whether it be Monday or Tuesday. There's no way Jay Johnson is going to. I mean, Paul's going to walk into the dugout or the locker room, take the ball, and say, "Coach, you ain't getting it out of my hands unless I'm on that mound." So, Tyler, who do you see starting for LSU? And I mean, what are your thoughts? What are your predictions?
Yeah, I first want to get into how Florida got here. In their first game, Virginia, it was not easy. They had to scratch and claw their way back and to come back. They were down 5-3 at one point. Actually, Virginia was up by 5 runs in this game, and Florida's offense alive. And so every game that they played so far, it's been close. The Orioles game, they won
One
5-4.
one run games. They've all
Yeah,
been one run
a lot
games.
of run games. So they're in the driver's seat. Went to 2 and then 3-0 game. That TCU game. TCU without the win would have hit an absolute nuke
Yep.
if it wasn't for the win. What a fantastic catch by Florida's center fielder. But yeah, Florida has definitely a elite. Wide Langford. He's going to be a top 3 pick. All the talk is about Cruz and Skeens at the top. Langford, the number 3 pick. Jack Caglione. They're is also pretty damn good as well. So I think that this is going to be an all battle right here. I just had this matched up when we were looking at the bracket at the start of this postseason. I
We
had
both
LSU
predicted
versus
it.
Florida. We both did. I just knew that these were 2 of the best teams in the country, and I just they didn't play during the SEC regular season schedule. And this is a 2017 rematch, and it's pretty similar how these two teams got here. Florida in 2017 they did lose one game, but Florida is set up on the pitching side. Back in 2017, use up Alex Lang. They were going to use him in game three, but the Gators swept through the Tigers in 2017, really
That's right. I
controlled
got
that
mixed it
series.
up.
Yeah. So I definitely think that Florida has a pitching advantage in this one. Brendan Sproat in game number one. Hurston, the Tigers faced him. Southern Miss last year. The Tigers did, in fact, get the win over Waldrop, but Waldrop is just elite. So I definitely think that LSU is going to have to take at least one or the two here to get to a game three. And you could think it's hard for me. I know that a lot of people are saying that Paul Skeens is done, but if we get to game three, folks, Paul Skeens is stepping on the mound. I don't care if
I 100%
120
agree with you.
pitches. It's hard to see this man, this competitor. I mean, if it comes down to a game three and this is winner take all to win the national championship, Paul Skeens taking the bump. I'm not saying that he's going to go 100 plus pitches, but let's go 4 innings pitch to
I think he's
really
gonna
give.
go in there and give you a
Yeah.
shot to win.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
question though, I do think that Ty Floyd will get the ball game number one. And then game number two, I think it's going to be set up how game number one was in 2017. We're going to need a Johnny Holstaff game, whether that's Nate Ackenhausen, whether that's Thatcher Hurd. So I definitely think that getting if you can steal one with Florida's ace on the mound, that's definitely gives LSU the advantage to get a little bit of a wiggle room in game number two. That way, game number three can be Paul Skeens. So I definitely think that this is going to be like I mentioned. Florida does have the pitching advantage, and the weather also could be a factor. There is a 60% chance of rain on Saturday, so this could potentially give Paul Skeens another day of rest. And also going to
that's
be
right.
interesting what direction the wind is going to be. Is it going to be blowing out? Is it going to be blowing in? That could also be a factor. Who's on the mound for?
Yeah, I mean, both teams can rake if the wind's in their favor. We saw Sunday, it was like 30 plus mile an hour winds, is what the Weather Channel's calling for. Now, we don't know if that's in or out. I would imagine it's blowing
It's going to
straight
be like a
into home
10-9
plate.
game.
Yeah, I mean, based on what we've seen so far, if history tells us anything, the wind's not going to be blowing out at this TD Ameritrade Park. It's going to be blowing straight into the batter. So we'll see. Predictions wise, I would love to say LSU 2-0 sweep, but Florida's a very good team, and I don't think that happens to be completely honest. I'm going to say LSU takes it in game three. I think we take the game one against Florida with their ace on the mound, and then game two, it kind of bites us in the butt, pitching like a Johnny Holstaff game. And I think we maybe drop that one in a close one. But my prediction is Paul Skeens comes out Monday, gives us 4 quality innings, and then you go to a guy like Thatcher Hurd to shut it down, and Riley Cooper finishes the game with the Tigers on top, dogpiling on the pitcher's mound.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it from the start that this LSU team was gonna to win the national championship against the Florida Gators. And like you, I do have this game number three. It's just hard for me to see a national championship series between two evenly matched and elite teams just be
Yeah.
so quick. So I think that LSU, they're just a team of destiny of what just happened the past couple of nights. They are just playing with house money, with their hair on fire. This pitching staff can continue to be dominant. Then really the pitching advantage, could shift to LSU side, especially if you get to game three of Paul Skeens and Florida has to pitch Jack Caglione, who's been their game three starter, who's been pretty solid on the mound. So I think that the Tigers are going to win their seventh national championship and get a little bit of revenge on what the 2017 team couldn't do.
Oh, I love it, Tyler. I love it. Big guy for me to watch. That's I think it's going to have to come through in a moment. It's going to be Jordan Thompson. I believe he's 1 for 23 in the College World Series tournament. Not great. Every time he walks up, it's pretty much a guaranteed out so far. Still playing great defense. He's batted a few balls while they move him over to second, but I think Thompson, he's not seeing the ball great. He's going to work on his game. And I think either, Friday or Saturday, or I'm sorry, Saturday or Sunday, potentially Monday, he's gonna figure it out and he's gonna come up with a clutch hit. We've seen him be clutch this season. It's just a matter of time. He's going through a little bit of a slump, but I mean, we saw Dylan Cruz go through a slump. He's out of it. We saw Tommy White go through a slump. He seems to be out of it. I think it's JT's moment to shine. and he's going to get it done. Tyler, who's your player to watch in this weekend's matchup for LSU?
National championship, you need your stars to come up. I think that Dylan Cruz at the top, especially with the way that Florida's pitching is set up, you need to score early and often. You need to put the pressure on them. Give a little bit of a breath of fresh air for your pitching staff. Give them a couple of runs. That way, if they have a little bit of a wiggle room to work with. So Dylan Cruz, this was his dream to play for a national championship, and I think that he's going to have a big series, and the Tigers are going to hoist their 7th national championship.
I like it. Well, hey, let us know in the comments your predictions and who's your player to watch this weekend. Who's going to get it done for the Tigers? Let's get to the around town news. So stepping away from the diamond and moving on to the hard court and gridiron, of course, we had some news. The finally 5-year IARP investigation into Will Wade has ended. Former LSU Tigers basketball coach announced some sanctions. He's got a 10-game suspension. With McNeese State has already posed a 5-game suspension. So not a huge deal. 10 games, and he has a few recruiting stuff kind of setbacks there. He can't make out of state visits during a few months, things like that. On the football side of things, they stripped LSU's victories, I believe, between 2012 to 2015. Was that the years? Somewhere around that. 37 wins for Les Miles are now voided, which chalk the big grand scheme of things, not a huge deal. It does drop his winning percentage below 600, which would qualify him to be in Coaches Hall of Fame. I mean, he won a national championship while at LSU, but man, he was something else. And of course, all these Title IX lawsuits and sexual allegations are coming out against him. I don't think he was actually going to get into the College Head Coach Hall of Fame, but I mean, Tyler, does he still have a shot? I mean, I know the games, it kind of takes away his opportunity, but would you have put him in the College Football Hall of Fame before these wins were voided?
I don't think so. Now that with the vacated wins, his win percentage now falls below the threshold of being in the College Football Hall of Fame. But it was just a weird case. Like, I don't think that LSU fans give a damn about those things, what's happening, because
It doesn't
LSU
matter. It doesn't
baseball
affect
in the
us.
national championship series. That's what's definitely on their mind. But my around town news is what happened last night. Paul Skeen finally was the SEC strikeout record king.
What is he
Breaking,
at currently?
I think I think
He got
202.
9.
He had 9 strikeouts, so I think he's like 210, 211, something around that. He's got a little bit of work, of a gap, but I
Right.
just don't really come close to this record. Paul Skeens is one of one, and he's definitely going to be great for whoever takes him at number one. The Pittsburgh Pirates would probably be dumb to not take Paul Skeens
I
at
agree.
number one instead of rotation. So Paul Skeens, I know that your focus right now on winning it all, but I'm definitely sure that's definitely a little bit of lanyard to be the SEC strike.
No, definitely. And I mean, Big McDonald, he pitched, I believe it was mid 80s, so his record stood for 20 years, 25 years. I mean, nobody thought it was ever going to be touched, and here you go. Paul Skeens came in, dealt this year. I can't imagine his record will ever be touched, but hopefully it's by another Tiger if the day ever comes. So Big Ben had sent a tweet out congratulating Paul Skeens, was happy to see it stayed in the LSU family. So we are too. And let's root on our Tigers this weekend. Let's hope we hoist up number 7 national championship. With that, we appreciate everybody watching, and go Tigers.